The 2025 campaign was an immense disappointment for the New York Mets. They were 45-24 with the MLB's best record at the time through their first 69 games. The starting rotation was on cruise control through these contests, bolstering an unbelievable 2.83 ERA. That was the key to their success. However, the season turned on a dime during the second half of the season when guys who were a huge part of the Mets' brief success went down with injuries, including Kodai Senga, who had an ERA of 1.47 through 13 starts before going down with a hamstring strain while trying to catch an errant throw from the Mets' first baseman Pete Alonso, and a Griffin Canning ruptured left Achilles, who had a solid 7-3 record prior to his ailment. Since June 26, 2025, the date Canning suffered his gruesome injury against the Atlanta Braves, the Mets went on to go 36-45 in their remaining 81 games, finishing with an overall record of 83-79 and relinquishing the final wildcard spot to the Reds, who also finished with the same exact record. Pitching was the glaring issue during that time, as guys both underperformed while many guys were on the shelf. Sean Manaea and Frankie Montas were both out to begin the season. When they both returned, their performances were a far cry from what it was expected to be. Not to mention, Kodai Senga's return from the IL didn't go as well either, as well as David Peterson, who also had hands down the best first half of his career. Peterson was the only Mets starting pitcher who was consistently throwing 6+ innings almost every start. The southpaw was so good in the first half of the season, he was selected to his first All-Star game. I don't know what monster took David's talent in the second half of the season as he pitched an astoundingly high ERA of 6.34, giving up more earned runs in his 12 starts, serving up 42 post-All-Star break compared to 37 through his first 18 starts. That has to be studied. This goes to show that it's obvious the Mets were thin on pitching and needed to do more during the trade deadline to get themselves back on track. They missed the playoffs by one game due to many poor pitching performances and were also lacking timely hits. The Reds, who edged out the Mets for the last wildcard spot, went on to get swept 2-0 against the eventual champs, the Dodgers, who just closed out a seesaw battle of a series against the Toronto Blue Jays, who haven't won since 1993. This was the second year of their back-to-back. This year is the first time that a team has won 2 consecutive championships since the Yankees did it in 98, 99, and 2000. Now that the World Series is over and LA has been crowned champions once again, we have officially moved on to the offseason. The Mets have a lot of revamping to do this offseason to get prepared to compete in 2026. They have already done that with some coaching moves. I am in no shape or form in any power to make offseason decisions for the Mets front office, but I can make a wish list on who I think can be some good fits in Queens. So, let's get into it. The first player that I'm going to add to my wish list is Framber Valdez, the Houston Astros lefty ace. While I have been hearing about this insane idea of the Mets trading for the Tigers' Cy Young winner, Tarik Skubal, the Mets are in a dire need for quality starting pitchers, and Framber is beyond just a quality pitcher. He has a good pedigree with 2 All-Star selections and a championship ring that he has won in 2022 when the Astros defeated the Phillies. In that World Series, he made 2 starts, mowing down the Phillies, only allowing 2 runs in 12 innings and 1/3. What's most impressive about Framber is the ability to give length, which the Mets were famished of. He threw 2 complete games this past season and 200 innings just as recently as 2022. That's a rare feat in today's game. He also came close this year, locking 192 innings and 198 innings in 2023. That displays durability. Zach Gallen. You can argue that last year was a down year for Zach, and I would agree with that. However, you can't take away the fact that he's still relatively young at only 30 years old, meaning that he can easily bounce back and provide a team decent 5 pitching years. Some pitchers improve into their early 30s, which actually seem like the trend nowadays. If you don't believe me, look at guys like Zach Wheeler, Jacob deGrom, Max Scherzer, Justin Verlander, Phil Niekro, Jamie Moyer, R.A. Dickey, and more. All of these pitchers had some good years while in their 20s, but seem to have hit their prime and flourished in their 30s. Hopefully, that is the case with Zach. The 2023 All-Star has had some pretty impressive seasons in the past, showing that he is a very valuable MLB starter. Not to mention that he is one of those rare durable pitchers, just like Framber Valdez, making 95 starts in the past 3 seasons. The good news about this down year is that he will probably give his next team a bit of a bargain only because his value has dipped just a little. He was offered the $22 million qualifying offer, which is expected to be rejected. Unfortunately, Scott Boras is still his agent, so he will be seeking a multi-year contract and will look to be incentivized in every way possible. The starting rotation that I desire should be set. You have Framber Valdez and Zach Gallen at the top of your rotation, with McClain, Senga, Peterson, and Manaea to round out the rotation. Now, we need some bullpen help. Clay Holmes is one guy that I feel should be pushed back into the bullpen to serve as the long man. That would certainly help on the days we don't get any length from our starter. But the most crucial bullpen spot is the closer. So far, barring any re-signing of Edwin Diaz within the next couple of days, the Mets have a vacancy in that spot. Let's be real, there is not a better fit than bringing back Edwin Diaz to Queens to don the orange and blue. First and foremost, Diaz was absolutely spectacular this past season. With the exception of the resurgent Aroldis Chapman and Andres Munoz, Diaz might have been the best closer in all of baseball last year, 2 years removed from his tragic season-ending injury right patellar tendon tear during the 2023 World Baseball Classic while representing Team Puerto Rico. While 2024 didn't treat him too badly, you can tell that he was still finding his footing that year. But us Met fans will never forget about the magical 2022 season where Diaz was utterly dominant, being part of a 100-win Mets team. He also made Narco a national anthem at Citi Field. Even though Diaz was not initially brought up in the big leagues by the Mets, it feels like we have adopted him and really made him ours. So, let's sound them trumpets and keep him in a Mets uniform for a little while longer. Speaking of dominance, I present to you the next guy on my list, Robert Suarez. Suarez is a late bloomer who made his major league debut at the age of 31 years old. His career ERA is 2.91 in 210 innings of work. Though he arrived to the MLB a little tardy, he has made his mark early and been nothing short of brilliant as a late innings kind of reliever. He officially got the promotion of being the Padres closer last season in 2024, in which he saved 36 games. The 6'2", 210-pound right-handed flamethrower improved his save total with 40 during the 2025 season. The 34-year-old can certainly be a valuable piece for the New York Mets as a setup man to Edwin Diaz, or he can be the primary closer if we are not able to come to terms with Diaz. Tyler Rogers. While us Met fans didn't get to see the best version of Rogers, he wasn't bad. In fact, he was quite good, as he had a 2.30 earned run average in 28 appearances. That's pretty good for any pitcher. It just felt like he lost gas at the end of his long, extensive MLB season. It's even more exhausting to come from one MLB team to another organization, especially mid-season. You have to completely adjust your new settings as well as Rogers' internal clock, considering that he had to come from the West Coast in San Francisco to New York, which is 3 hours apart. What I especially like about the sidearmer's game is the ability to consistently throw strikes and being able to seamlessly make 3 consecutive appearances. Plus, given the assets that the Mets gave up to acquire him, it only makes sense to bring him back. Now let's shift to the offense. I am not a huge fan of an all-or-nothing approach, and Schwarber seems to be your typical 3-result kind of batter. Either he hits a home run, walk, or strike out. With Schwarbs, I make an exception. He's the epitome of a designated hitter. The lefty slugger has no position on the field, but he'll slug you some mammoth bombs throughout the course of the season. He has matched 40-plus jacks in 3 of his last 4 seasons, including the 56 from this past season, making his new career high. He's a nightmare for opposing pitchers. The Mets have not had a legitimate DH since the inception of the DH in 2022. JD Martinez was the Mets DH in 2024, but his best days were behind him by then. While there will be many situations where Kyle will leave you disappointed when he strikes out in a critical part of the game, he can also have Citi Field rocking with one swing when he hits a clutch home run or 4 long balls in a game like he did against the Atlanta Braves on August 28th, 2025. All in all, you already know what to expect from Schwarby. Harrison Bader. In case you were wondering, no, I am not trying to collect Philly free agent players, but if you examine our 2025 season, you realize that we had very little offensive contributions from all three of our center fielders. Initially, we started the year with Tyrone Taylor and Jose Siri platooning. Jose Siri only played in 10 games before fracturing his tibia on a foul ball that hit his left shin. So Taylor took over as the starting center fielder. Tyrone is a tremendous defender in center field, but cannot hit a lick, which isn't an issue since that's his game. But there's more pressure on you as a player when you are a starting player becoming an integral part of the lineup. The Mets threw Jeff McNeil out there on a few occasions, who held his own and provided more offense, but not a defensive wizard like Taylor. The Mets then traded for Cedric Mullins, who is supposed to be an upgrade offensively over Taylor during the trade deadline. Yet, Mullins wasn't much of a factor as a hitter. Cedric, who once had a 30-30 season as a member of the Baltimore Orioles, went 22 for 121 with just 2 measly home runs. Mullins offensively was lacking so much to the point where we were excited when Siri was coming off the IL. Jose turned out to be just as much of a disappointment as Mullins and was eventually designated for assignment on September 24th, 2025. Also part of that Rodgers trade, the Mets shipped one of their top prospects, Drew Gilbert, who was a center fielder and would have been the future there. Bader, who was a Met during the 2024 campaign, would have been useful for us. He signed a short one-year deal with Minnesota Twins and was then traded to the Philadelphia Phillies around the trade deadline. Harrison burst onto the scene with Phillies and had overall his best offensive season, batting .277 and popped a career-high 17 taters in 146 games while maintaining his reputation as a remarkable glove out there in center field. He is not a long-term solution, but he'd be an excellent bridge for 1 or 2 years until Jet Williams or Carson Bench is ready to come up. I am hoping that Bader has fully hit his stride offensively. Pete Alonso. As a diehard Mets fan, this one is obvious. Bring back the polar bear. I've watched the emergence of Pete Alonso from his rookie year when he socked 53 long balls to now. He still hits 30-plus home runs a year with ease, even in his quote-unquote down years. Last free agency was a weird one for Pete. Because he was coming off a disappointing year by his standards, teams were reluctant to dishing out a long-term contract. Pete and his agent, Scott Boras, scoured the market to see if they could get a lucrative deal, but that was not the case whatsoever. Pete had to settle for a short-term deal, re-signing with our beloved Mets for a 2 years, $54 million deal with an opt-out, which we all expected him to exercise if he had himself a bounce-back year. Months later, in November 2025, after penciling his name as the Mets' all-time home run leader, breaking Darryl Strawberry's record of 252 long balls, it's deja vu as the polar bear is once again a free agent. We can only hope this time that the negotiation process goes much smoother than it did last year for both parties, because the polar bear deserves to be back in his natural habitat in Queens. I have kept my wish list as short as I possibly can, addressing the glaring issues that the Mets had this past season. There are a lot of trade rumors right now, especially surrounding the Mets, as they seem to always be involved in. There are other names worth mentioning, such as free agents like Ranger Suarez, Dylan Cease, Michael King, Shota Imanaga, Luis Roberts Jr., and Munetaki Murakami. Potential trade targets such as Tariq Skubal, Ketel Marte, and Jarren Duran could all possibly be intriguing fits for New York. However, trades are always complicated, so this is why I tend to stay away from that topic and let the experts do their jobs. Obviously, the Mets have a bunch of holes to fill, and that is David Stern's responsibility to fill the best team possible, especially after they completely fell flat on their face in 2025. For now, all we can do is hope the Mets front office is aggressive and shrewd this winter. The 2025 season was an excruciating reminder of how fast things can fall apart throughout baseball season. Nevertheless, the correct moves could certainly make 2026 a different tale. So with that said, let the hot stove heat up. Hey Met fans, I'd like for you to comment down below who should be donning the orange and blue next season. Thank you for watching the video. If you liked it, don't forget to hit that thumbs up button. And if you want to see more videos like this, please hit that subscribe button. so you can get more content, and please share. Again, thank you. Slugger out.